Welcome to Zoom at 8. My name is Julianne Peterson, and I am your host tonight. Yes, that's a banana suit that I have on today. It is costume night. Now look at everybody here. How many people are in costume?
I don't need a costume, Julie.
What, Vish? What's your problem?
I don't need a costume. I love bananas.
All right. Well, and Alan's in. He's in.
I got mine.
Yeah,
this is my jester outfit.
You are a jester. So anyway, Old Capital is a premier provider. I work for Old Capital, premier provider of debt. So if you're looking for a loan, which is your biggest partner, because we're bringing 70-80% of the deal, let me know. I'd love to be able to help you. That's what I do most, is help people, whether it's to find a sponsor or an insurance broker or a cost segregation guy. Everybody's here that comes to Zoom at 8 that can help you. So we're just going to need your rent roll, your T12, and a banana to get that deal done. I'm so excited. I know I say that every week because we get some great speakers. But, you know, while I was at this conference, people were saying, what's this Zoom at 8 thing? I said, you better show up because we've got an amazing speaker tonight, Megan Banks, who is a rock star. And I just got to know more and more of how she did it. So I'm so excited for her to share her story, how she did it, any tips and tricks, words of wisdom. Where do we see her in the next 10 years? So let's learn about Megan. Megan Banks is a managing member of the Brem Group, LLC. After graduating from the University of Arkansas with a degree in marketing, she found her real passion in real estate and has spent the last 6 years working in multiple facets across the real estate world. Prior to the Brem Group, she worked as a VP of acquisitions for a global owner and operator. Megan was responsible for overseeing a portfolio of 7,000 units. I think she's going to be there by Tuesday doing it on her own. Megan's outgoing personality and her previous marketing and operations experience helps her to succeed in all facets of acquisition, asset management, and disposition. She maintains strong relationships with brokers across the Southeast and Texas. Megan is based in Dallas, Texas, and enjoys running to stay active and spends time with her husband, who she just married, and her 2 dogs. One is Baxter and Remy. So welcome to Zoom at 8, Megan.
Thank you, Julie. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. Now, I know that Megan and I are going to be doing some interview kind of style conversation. So if you want to give us the view, go up to the right-hand side and pick the speaker view, then you'll be able to focus on the 2 of us, because it's about us tonight and really getting to know Megan Banks. And you're going to see her around and you're going to be able to say, I knew her when. You found out about her here, and you get to watch her just explode in new assets that she's taken on. So Megan, again, thank you for joining me and my crew here. We're here every Tuesday, and I want to hear your story. You know, I kept seeing you on Zoom, on Facebook, and I'm like, I have got to know this woman. How the heck does she get to take down a $50 million deal? So before we get there, I want to know kind of like what you were doing before multifamily, what you were doing before getting into real estate. So is that really just going to college and stuff like that?
I mean, honestly, real estate has always sucked me in and fascinated me. In college, I had to basically get an internship. So I applied at an apartment complex that was actually going through a lease up for a student housing asset. And then I ended up doing so well there. They promoted me while in college to the assistant manager. And looking back on it, that would petrify me if like one of my properties had a college girl as an assistant manager. It would petrify me, but I was, and I did a phenomenal job at it. So for me, you know, while I went ahead and pursued marketing, I always knew my passion was in real estate. I started out in the property management sector of it. And I really learned so much. I have an amazing relationship with the company based out of Singapore that essentially gave me the roots to be who I am today. They really took me under their wing. They gifted me, I mean, even GP points whenever I exited, like things like that you don't see. I was very fortunate to come into, but I also served my time. Back in that day, I was working probably easily 12 hours a day, but it wasn't because anybody asked me to do it. It's because I just loved real estate that much. As crazy as that sounds.
Amazing. So how many units were you in charge of?
So I had a little over 7,000, like 7,300. It was massive at first. So it took me obviously time, you grow, you get promoted from assistant manager, general manager, you serve as a regional director of ops, and then eventually VP status. And for me, there was a lot of trust. Singapore, they're such a different company than here in the US. So they gave me a lot of trust and a lot of freedom, which honestly, I think really allowed me to be able to be strong and opinionated and loudmouthed, even when I shouldn't be, but be fully myself through and through. And, that experience taught me how, whenever it came to purchasing my own properties, what to do, how to handle something if it goes south, how to overcome, and just stay solution driven.
So here you are, a property manager at 18, 19, 20, 21. I have to think that there were some challenges in that, like whether it was age, whether it was being a female. Can you identify a couple of your challenges as you look back? What would you think would have been, we've heard how great it was, but I'm sure there were challenges during that time, whether maybe it was doing homework. I don't know. What do you think?
Even today, just speaking with my mom was on the phone with me. I have an apartment closing Thursday. I have one closing December 8th, and we're going under contract on another one here in the next couple of days. And my mom told me, she's like, Megan, think like a man. And at first I got offended. I'm like, Mom, what are you telling me? Think like a man here. But honestly, being a woman, it's always been challenging. Today, the same issues I have are the same issues I had then. I'm young and I'm female. So a lot of times there's not the respect just automatically granted. It's people are like, oh, she's just the bubbly person, the face, the salesperson. And then when I start diving into numbers and I go into analysis paralysis, I think they're a little taken aback by it. So the challenges that I faced back then I was young, it was hard to get residents to, respect me. It was hard to get, even in a certain, format, employees you're overseeing to respect you. So I'm in the process right now of hiring an asset manager who's about 20 years older than me. How that's going to work out, I'm not sure yet, but, we'll figure it out. But little things like that are definitely a lot of challenges. But the one thing I've learned about it is there is nothing that, I can't overcome, and to never say I'm a female or I'm young, so I can't do this. That shouldn't be the way it is. It's an equal playing field now. And I have some amazing male business partners as well.
Yeah. I think, you just overcome, right? You just take it on and let your performance speak, right? That's really how I view it. You're doing a great job, and let's, I do it like a man. That's interesting. I've not heard it like that, but I can understand it. So you get out of doing property management and you go into your first multifamily, right? Now, did you stop in single family for a second?
I tried it one time. It was a bust. I ended up just selling the house off. Single family is not for me. I still have PTSD from it today. So
you were smart to get out then. Now, does your family have any real estate background that would have influenced you?
No, none at all. I just really found my own way of doing it. And I was so lucky. I found my passion for it in college.
Oh, amazing. So you go and you get into your first multifamily, and it is in the DFW area, 42 unit. How long ago was that you jumped into that?
About 2 years ago, and it was a nightmare.
Tell us about that. 2 years ago. How did you get there? Tell me the structure. You put the deal together by yourself. You got partners? Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, and deals like that, I don't even consider necessarily doing them deals that I've done because I was handheld through the process. And a lot of things were just more or less, you need to do this, don't ask questions, but you need to do this. And I think a lot of times when you are a KP, like looking at it now, I see why KP, some of them are that way. But the deal, it went south, the partnership, it went south, the partnership's very tarnished, and it's okay. Like it happens sometimes. I see some people say it's like, oh man, that's a rough experience, but it was the best experience that ever happened to me because I've never had anything like that ever happen again. I will tell you that. So I'm actually very happy that my first bad experience happened right off the bat. I'm very lucky it went that way because I'd rather it happen, back then as opposed to now with, when we're dealing with a lot more at stake essentially. So it was a good starter for me, but it went south. I did not know what I was doing back then. I thought I knew.
Yeah, don't we all, right? But to learn from it. So I'm going to back up just a second here. Education. Education in multifamily. Did you participate in some program and some mentorship? Tell me about that.
I did, I have partaken in mentorship. It is helpful, but it's really what you do with it. A lot of people, when they sign up for these programs, they expect you or expect the person to just do the deal for you. You almost latch on to them. You're like, cool, when are you hooking me up with my first deal? I paid 50 grand for this, and that's not the way it is. It's really what you get out of it. So I benefited a lot. That was actually the very first thing I did. Whenever I was wanting to progress in my career, I invested my life savings essentially in educational programs because I knew that I didn't have the network myself. I didn't have KPs that I could call up that would just hop on a loan. I didn't have investors. I didn't know how to sort debt at that point. Just so many things I didn't know. So I knew I needed the educational side that I didn't have in my day-to-day job.
Perfect. Now, we all talk about putting your team together. Did you put the team together before you got the deal, or was it when you got the deal, you started picking off people? Curious because I know your partnership didn't go so well. So I'm just curious because we see this, right?
Yeah.
We talk about making sure it's a good fit, and good fits take time. So what was your experience in that?
I will say this. Don't base your partnerships off of people that you just think your visions align with or you click with, because that's what I did. And I was like, I like this person, our visions align, let's do a deal together. And it was a nightmare. It was just a nightmare. It's partnerships are so much more than that. The partnerships I have now, they actually started out just being business oriented. I literally thought one of my business partners, my actual direct business partner, I thought he hated me because we would just talk on the phone and he would hang up on me, like not a goodbye, not anything like that, not a how are you doing. It was just all business, like just click, bye. And he's my best friend today. I kid you not. He is my best friend, my direct business partner. We're launching a form company together end of this year. But I would suggest to anybody, start your relationships off being business driven. Don't start it, being friendship or even just, you meet someone at a networking event for 3 days. That does not mean you should do a deal with them. I'm all for networking, but it does not mean you should do a deal with them off of a 3-day experience.
I would love for everybody to hear that one more time because you're not the only one. I hear it every single week. Can you say that one more time? Partnerships.
Yes. Be very protective of that. The partners I have today are the partners I will have in 50 years from now. I kid you not. I'm not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. It's solidified. And I wish I would have taken it to heart and got it right the first time, because the deal wouldn't have gone like it ended up, and the relationships wouldn't have ended up. You want to be with people at the end of the day that aren't going to play the blame game, and people that are going to be solution driven.
Yeah. So, words of wisdom, I think, on this one. We talked about the word, kind of what your challenges were. In this one particular is your partnerships. Is there any other challenges that you could share about this deal. I know it's 42 in Dallas Fort Worth. You know, that is 2 years ago was, you know, not as, it was competitive, but not as much as it is today. That was right before we went into COVID. So you were paying top dollar. What challenges did you have in finding that deal or being in the deal?
Finding that deal actually wasn't that challenging. I actually knew a lending broker that gave it to me off market. He was close to the broker, so it just worked out pretty well. But honestly, the biggest challenges, and I know, you know, a lot of people still purchase C assets today, and I'm not against C assets. If that works for you, that is amazing. But personally, that was not a great deal to start out on, is a C asset. You know, going in now, I only purchase Class A now. I might do a Class A with a value add component on it. But going into a C product for the first deal was just brutal because I was not a CapEx expert. I thought I was one. And then when you go into owning it and you're looking at all the CapEx that needs to be done, and if you are just not thorough in your due diligence of it, if you don't have a construction person walking it with you, giving you estimates, quotes, you know, you really just miss so much on it. So it being a C deal was definitely challenging overall.
So did you do a major rehab on that to bring it up, or tell us a little bit about your CapEx that you put together?
Yep. So the original plan was essentially to renovate 20 out of the 42 units, just do about half, leave meat on the bone, you know, kind of a 3-year hold, quick flip, bridge debt on it, the standard you see with Class C values. But with that being said, you know, in my head, when working through it with the KPs and everything, they, you know, felt like we could get out of CapEx on it for $5,000 a unit. If you guys are doing CapEx for $5,000 a unit, please let me know how, because
that is another great mystery, right? People are saying 5,000 right now. 5,000 is like a cup of coffee. Seriously, Candace, I see you laughing, but it is true. Forget the 5,000. Keep going.
Yeah, it was $5,000 a unit is what we budgeted all in. We were looking at actually about $9,000 a unit. So almost double the renovation for one thing. And granted, you know, going into that deal, there were just so many rookie things I made. Whenever I get my Class A products head to toe, every single bit of it's inspected. I bring our construction crews out. I mean, we go all out. We fly people in sometimes for these. It's insane. But starting out, I didn't know, you know, you're just walking through, you're like, oh, how much does a window really cost to replace? You Google it, you're like, cool, good to go. I got this. And I even, you know, that's when you do rely on your KP, right? You go to your KP, you're like, this is my proposed budget. You toured the property. What do you think? And they say, yeah, this lines up. Well, when you're both, you know, essentially $5,000, $4,000 off, that's a completely different story, right? It's just the cost of labor was increasing, the cost of materials. There were just so many things that we did not factor into that deal. And I'm very transparent about it now because I want other people not to make the same mistakes that I made. And because of that, like I said, it is a lesson for me today. I get everything fully inspected head to toe. People actually laugh at me because my CapEx budget, sometimes we come up like we're way under CapEx now, just amazingly under CapEx. Wow. But it's something I don't take lightly.
Amazing. So looking back, you know, debt, how did the debt come? No problem. You were able to sign on the loan?
Oh, the debt was a problem. So I didn't even touch on that yet. So we were told, and I'm not going to name any names or anything.
No problem.
Everything went, you know, it just went south. That could go south. And that's usually a sign right there. But the lending broker actually promised us 10% or guaranteed us 10% additional leverage than what we actually received when the quotes came out. I still to this day, I've never had that ever happen. All my debt quotes have been spot on to a T. You know, we wire out money the next day, we get our quotes in, we sign the application, we wire out the funds, and we're locked and loaded. This one came back 10% less leverage than we were anticipating.
So I'm going to stop you there for just a second, because this is a critical point. A lot of brokers out there, again, Old Capital, we want to give you the bad news up front so we can fix it or learn or make some changes. There are mortgage brokers out there that will tell you, here's one example. Megan had it on her first deal. I can get you 80%. And you're like, well, Julie's at 70. You're like, I'm going with that guy. And now Megan is stuck with a 70%. So what happens when you got to go capital raise more money?
You do. Yeah, no, you do. And fortunately, it was a smaller deal. So it wasn't just millions and millions. I wouldn't say I lucked out on that one, but everything
Frustrating.
that could go wrong went wrong on that. And, you know, looking back though, if
50% subscribed.
Hold on. We got to get a,
Maurice told me.
hold on. We're going to turn her off. There we go. Wait, mute. Okay, there you go.
But, you know, looking back on it too, I would say if that happens to one of your deals where the lending broker, you know, comes back with an insanely different amount of leverage, you need to go to a different lending broker or you need to not do the deal because something is significantly wrong with the deal that you're not seeing. I think sometimes we get it so much in our head that we have to do a deal. We just only see the good in it. We're very protective of it. And that's not the way it should be. You know, we now have a policy where you never fall in love with a deal. You never do. I have a beautiful Class A deal that it ended up fully subscribed. Haven at Bel Air. It's everyone.
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that because we want to know all about those. Yeah.
So that deal, you know, we ended up, it was so smooth, just a completely different process now, being able to compare transactions to my first one versus now. And if something like that happens, something is wrong with the deal. You need to take a good hard look at it. But being also the first transaction, I was so paranoid of a retrade and, you know, ruining a relationship with a broker.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of pressure that goes into that. But I would say that's also why you need to get those debt terms quoted out by vetted sources prior to going under LOI. I think that that's a big thing as well.
Yeah. You know, we're in a very difficult market right now. A lot of the agency loans are not able to lend at the higher leverage. So we're having to transfer over to bridge. And bridge lenders will say, I'm not looking at it until it is in best and final or until you have an LOI. And now you're in an LOI, you got to hurry up. And a lot of these bridge loans are, you know, it can take 5 to 10 hours for each one of the deals to underwrite. So it's critical that you have a good relationship with a lender that can go and take your particular deal to a vetted source. It's real important. So great point there. Megan, how did COVID hit this deal? Did you have any problems? Tell us about that.
I think everything with COVID, everybody got scared in that moment with COVID, but truth be told, there were issues way before COVID. So when COVID came, it was just another thing at that point. It was just another thing that, you know, we're like, this is just something else to overcome. I think like everyone, we held distributions that quarter, but it wasn't because of the deal. It was, nobody knew what was happening. I mean, the deal right now, it's just, we're pushing rate essentially because the CapEx budget, it's gone. So we have to make up the revenue elsewhere. And that just means insanely pushing rate on those units that are renovated. And that's our game plan. And once again, it's just about being solution driven. I will say, you know, not only did a lot of investors hold the distributions, but a lot of people held their money that they were going to spend on rent because they didn't know, you know, if they were going to be able to food, car payments. And when you're dealing with a C product, it's a different demographic than your A product, right? Your A demographic, they're not scared of paying rent or are they going to be able to eat the next week? It's just a different demographic, but that's when you have to get creative, bring in workforce housing, you know, make these avenues in these ways. We have a brilliant property management company who they specialize. They have regionals that specialize in C products, regionals that specialize in A products. So I would say also a lot of that just comes down to your property management company and just how good, you know, how good are they?
So let me just step back for just a second. Did you say that you ran out of money on that bridge and now you have to bring in capital? Is that what I heard you say?
No, we're not doing a capital call. We will
Oh,
not.
no, not a capital call, but to complete your CapEx. Did you need to?
No, we redid the plan on it.
Got
now.
it. Perfect. And that does happen. I mean, that does happen. It's all in understanding how fast, how much you can raise rents, and your plan needs to be, and work with a property manager that is nimble enough to switch that plan over, and that everybody's on board with the timeline. So excellent, really great. All right, so let's shift to how the heck does Megan Banks get a $50 million deal? Can you walk me through that? I'm serious. You and I spoke about that. I was just completely just inspired by you. So get your word out there. Tell us how you did it from start to finish.
I came out on a mission this year, and it's not even close to over. I just came out on a mission. I was sick of small deals. I was like, man, I'm not making the cash flow I wanted. I'm busting my butt. There has to be a better way to do this. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I know how to run assets. I'm competitive. I saw these things in myself, like I should be doing more. And there was just a point where I had to have a serious set down moment with myself and say, what is next in your career? And that's when I decided, the good old Texas saying, I'm going to go big or go home here. So I put out $500,000 on a deal.
You have $500,000 of your own money.
I put in 300. And then I borrowed the other 200,000.
Okay, keep going.
You talk about scary, right? I don't know what's worse, putting up 300K yourself or having to have friends and family lend you the other 200, because rightfully so. It was my sponsor's first time putting up the deal. He's like, man, $500,000 it's steep. He's like, but we knew that. We had that conversation early on. It was expected, but I also knew I could come up with it. So we had to get very competitive on the earnest money because we locked it up for an extremely attractive basis. I actually directly called. I think I probably broke one of the biggest rules with brokers, but I will say I have a very good relationship with Newmark. So they expect this out of me now, and they accept me for who I am. But I actually directly called the seller after my interview with them. So, and I'm very close to the seller today. I mean, he's selling me, we have stuff lined up in Q1 for next year, but I directly called this institutional seller. And we were bidding against other institutions that actually had higher bids than us. I knew it. The broker told me, it's more or less like you guys might lose out. So I directly called the seller and I'm like, you need to sell to me. I'll go $500,000 hard, zero contingencies. If I don't close, you keep my money. But if I succeed, you start a new relationship. You already have a relationship with these guys. I just spun it like I'm going to be the person that's going to come up and buy a lot of your properties after this. And, he was crazy enough to take the chance on me, the seller was. So we were all shocked when we won the deal on it. So I think a lot of that was just, I refused to lose that deal. It underwrote so beautifully. I still think that is one of the best investments we will ever do. The replacement cost on it was $181,000 per unit. We picked it up for $152 per unit. A 2017 Class A in pristine shape. I mean, we just couldn't have gotten a better deal on it. So with that being said, I was like, I am going to fly to California to this institution's headquarters if I have to, but they're going to sell me this dang deal. And sure enough, they ended up giving us the chance. We were on a very tight rope with them. We closed within the 60 days. We didn't need an extension. Something we do unique to help us win these big deals is we don't put extensions in our contract, which we absorb that risk going in. It's a bold move, but that's how we win these. That's how we beat out some of these institutions, our strategy. And we understand the risk that we are accepting. It's a lot. It's a gamble every single deal. But that's, once again, you have to have your debt in line. You have to have your equity in line. You need to have a clear conversation with your lending broker and lender. Can you guarantee a close by this date? Can you put all your marbles in this basket? So that's essentially, what we did. And
how long ago was that, Megan?
Friday the 13th, we closed of August.
Perfect date.
So it was,
That was
we-
August 13th?
August 13th, which
August
was a
13th.
Friday. Yeah, I was like, it fits that closing date fit very nicely. And it was just a decision though, Julie. That's how I got there is I was like, I'm sick of these small deals. I, in quote unquote, what my KP tells me, this is how the big dogs play. And cause I called him, I'm like, I'm not comfortable signing a PSA without an extension. Like, are they crazy? And he's like, welcome to the big dog world, Megan. And,
Wow.
but it's something where I will say, if you are dedicated and you are hungry, it will be successful. There were moments throughout that deal where I questioned, is it going to close? I remember sitting on my couch crying because I did not know if the lender was going to close in time. If we actually kicked one of our large equity partners out that was going to bring 10 million, we kicked them out 3 weeks before close. So we came up with $10 million in 3 weeks. But that shows how good the deal is too, to come up with 10 million in 3 weeks.
How do you do that? I know there's a lot of listeners here today that are trying to become capital raisers. This is big time. How do you find somebody that has this big of a checkbook?
When the pressure is on, you do not sleep and you get creative.
Okay, come on. I gotta know. Are you sitting on the phone, making phone calls with the
Oh
yellow
my gosh.
pages? I gotta know.
I mean, there was a point I was messaging people off of LinkedIn. I had connections that I didn't even know reaching out for people for me. I mean, we had Charlie's on this call. They invested in that deal, truth be told.
How did you find Charlie?
Charlie, we met at a coffee. Was it coffee, I believe? And I told him about my story, that I was on a mission to do larger Class A deals. I went over the deal with Charlie. We dissected it from head to toe. He felt like it was a good investment for, his company, and they decided to invest in it. And I will say, it's just networking, a lot of it. I knew that there were people that, I could call to help me out with this, but also a lot of it was my partner. So at that point, my partner and I sat down, we said, we have this equity group that is trying to make these decisions. That's not going to work for us. So we got two options. We can suck it up. We can take their equity and pretty much just have the deal taken from us. Or we can kick them out, roll up our sleeves, and come up with $10 million.
So let me unpack this. You had a preferred equity partner. Is that what
Yes.
you're saying? Okay.
Yes.
So you go out and they shop it for you, right? And they dissect and say, yes, I will give you this amount of money. Is that correct?
So,
just for the people in the room that don't know exactly how this works.
Yeah. So it was actually a large group that was personally writing the check themselves. It wasn't a equity or a capital raiser. It was actually a group that said, hey, we'll bring the full stack in. They manage wealth for a lot of clients. They're like, no problem. We'll bring the full stack in. These are our terms and conditions. They changed their terms and conditions on us 3 weeks before close. So
wow. So 3 weeks, you're caught with your pants down looking for capital.
Oh yeah.
So then the telephone calls, the texts all start. And are you the only one that's doing it, or is there someone else on your team?
My KP was amazing through this, and that is where our bond and our relationship was solidified, because we both realized we didn't sit around and point fingers at each other. It was me and him, and never one time did we question. We weren't like, you said you would bring this. Well, you said you were bring this. We were like, we're getting this dang thing done. I mean, we were on the phone sometimes at 1 a.m. And we actually, Julie, this is the craziest thing. We ended up oversubscribed on the deal. Day of closing,
Amazing.
we ended up 500,000 oversubscribed. So to give you any insight, but that's the power of partnership. That is the power of partnership. They have connections you don't have. You have connections they don't have. And when you have that kind of pressure on your reputation on the line, so it was about way more than the earnest money on the line. Forget about the earnest money.
Sure.
It's your name. It's your future brand. It's your relationship with the brokers. When that is on the line, I used to always hear people say, you will find a way. But if you want it bad enough, you will find a way to make it happen.
My heart rate just went up about 400 beats listening to this story. It is so, the stress level I can only imagine. Go big banks or go home. I mean, this is just nuts. So just keeping with the challenges, what were the challenges? We know that one challenge. Was there another challenge that you had that you could share with us that you overcame?
Throughout that deal,
Yeah.
I would say we had some open permit issues in the 11th hour. So some of you guys know open permits, lenders, there are certain requirements they have to have permits closed. So once again, we got on the phone with the institution. We got pretty creative there on how to overcome those problems, but that was definitely a stressor. However, it was on both parties. It wasn't just on us. It was actually more so on them because they actually weren't in good standing as well. So they granted an institution forgot to pay a $50 fee, which is kind of absurd, but true story, that did happen as well. So there were some hiccups there throughout the deal, but both parties just remain very solution driven. And the main thing is don't panic when things like that happen. As long as you are in the driver's seat, you will be okay. We didn't have our equity bell on us. We kicked our equity out. We knew the risk that we were taking on. But we were confident and we knew we were in the driver's seat the entire time of it. So I think a lot of it is just reminding yourself not to panic in that moment. You have to stay calm and you have to say, this is the decision we're making. We're going to live or die by this decision. And that's what we did.
Did you lose sleep? I have to know.
Julie, I still haven't slept from it. I'm still trying to recover. So
okay. All right. Maybe some of us lose weight during those things, or some of us gain weight because we just keep eating. Yeah.
My business partner and I, we have a running joke of we're rather going to lose or gain 10 pounds. We'll see which it is at the end of the deal. So
that's so funny. So I've got two more questions. Noonie wants to know, first of all, who your property manager is that you would like to share.
Asset Living is hands down the best. A lot of you guys know JC Reeves. If you don't know JC or not, you should know JC Reeves. He goes above and beyond for us. I'm actually upset that Julie send this to him after, so he knows I do compliment him. But JC is amazing, but it goes deeper than JC as well. Just the whole Asset Living team. They have been a community to us in a lot of ways, like an extended family. We fully trust them with our assets that we personally invest in as well. And we could not pick a better group.
Perfect. Yeah. I do business with JC and he is a rock star. So
JC's
great job, JC. All right. I know you have two other assets. Okay. The first one, how many units? 50 million?
So we were at 300 units on that one. I will call that my first true deal in regards to saying I'm truly stepping into this world of.
We'll give you that
with the big dogs. My next one, we are actually closing on one on Thursday. It is right across the street from the $50 million one. That is I hope none of you guys work for the tax department here. I hope none of you guys hit me for taxes hearing these purchase prices, but, 35, I'm kidding. 35.4 million is what we're paying for the other one. We closed that this Thursday. And then our next.
How many units?
230.
Okay. 230. And then the next one
is my newest baby, Haven at Bel Air. It's in the Katy, Texas submarket. It is $56 million and 297 units.
Oh my goodness. I feel very inspired by you. By no doubt. Your dreams are huge. You're taking a lot of action. Who inspires you?
Gosh. There's been a lot of people that have honestly inspired me, but I don't even think it's necessarily about who inspires me, but more so who surrounds me whenever I need lifting up. Like, I have these dreams. It's easy to dream big, right? It's easy to say I want to be institutional, and that is my goal. Or I know that I will never in my lifetime be institutional, but I want to lay the foundation for Brem Group to continue a legacy. Marty Fingers actually inspires me a lot from the finger companies. I'm sure, as you guys know, he just sold $1 billion, $500 million to Greystar. But I sat down with Marty Fingers, and he truly did inspire me quite a bit, because he started out with nothing and is a multi-billionaire and built a legacy. And I want to lay the foundation for that to happen. But I think it's about the people that surround you when you need it. You know, my business partner, he's there. My husband, JC Reeves, is there. It's about the people that are with you at the bottom of when you're low and that are going to lift you up. The people you can be transparent with. A lot of times that's hard in this industry, right? You get so many calls from people. You get calls from brokers. Hey, how's the deal going? I'm not going to tell my broker I just kicked out my $10 million equity partner. Hey, it's fine, Todd. We're closing that day.
We're good. We're good. Call you tomorrow.
We're good. I'm not going to tell them what's really happening behind closed doors, but it's about having those people you can confide in. I say that those are the ones that inspire me, because I have personal stake in it. A lot of them, they don't have personal stake in it outside of just truly wanting to see me succeed. And I mean, how raw and genuine is that?
So wonderful. All right, we're going to finish with, and then we'll go to a question, and then we go to networking, which hopefully you can join us. If not, that's okay too.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to know, we always end our Zoom at 8 every Tuesday night with words of wisdom. How about you? What are your words of wisdom that we can take with us from Megan Banks?
Don't be scared to take chances. Don't. Lay it all out on the line. Do it. I would do it 10 out of 10 times again. And if it went the opposite direction, I could honestly be at peace. You know, there was a moment where I was unsure about the deal closing, but I still felt at peace about it, because I knew I never had to wonder what if I would have put it all out there. So I would say, just don't be afraid. Go for it.
I love that. Just do it. Wow. So let's open it up to everybody. And if anybody has a question, you can go ahead and raise your hand with the reaction, and we'll get you up in the front of the line. Does anybody have any questions? Megan is so inspiring, especially to me, and it's all about me, but hopefully you guys were inspired as well. Moses, what do you got? Anything?
Thanks, Julie. You know, I couldn't agree more with Ms. Banks. I've said it to Daryl as well. The bigger you go, you're actually more stable, because the economy is scale. You sleep better at night, because I only do 300 deals units or up. I don't go below that, just because once you play that card, you can't go. The other stuff becomes, you know, it's not challenging, and this is, you know, it's a different world. So I totally agree with her. You know, you gotta take the risk. Once you are in, you will understand that it's so much more nicer on the other side of the fence.
Love it. Totally agree with you.
And something I would say too, you know, that deal I did, it gave me all the confidence in the world. This $56 million transaction's been a walk in the park. We've been fully subscribed before we even honestly released the deal, which is insane. But with that being said, it just takes one. It just takes one. And that's so true.
Absolutely agree. Anybody else? No? We have covered everything, Megan. I mean, just outstanding interview. I so appreciate your transparency. You are so delightful, and you know, I couldn't be more proud of you. And yeah, I would love to have the opportunity to take one of those loans for you so that you don't get screwed. But nonetheless, you know, I just want to wish you so much success, so much, you know, gratitude for those people that are helping. It's just so amazing. And to the team to be able to execute time and time again, it just really does say a strong team will lift you up and get you through some of these hard times. So I want to thank you again for being part of our Zoom at 8. And